Okay, guys, good to see you. We had a lot of help tonight, and so I want to start tonight by just thanking some of the men that helped us first, to John and Richard and Brett and whoever else came to make sandwiches and cook hot dogs and do all the food. Jim, thank you guys. Let's thank them for the food tonight. I want to thank Joe. Joe brought the setup outside and this in here so that we could have a fun time. He rents these things, so if you ever want to have a party or a business kind of outing, then that's what he does. And he's got some cards outside, or you can get with me and I'll get you Joe's contact. Joe, thanks for being here and for doing this for us. On our 3-minute devotionals on day 49, I talked about not what would Jesus do, but how would Jesus react. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but it is the reaction that causes, it's my reaction that always causes my concern. And so we had one of our guys who made these. It says, HWJR, but on the inside it says day 49. And so if you got one of these, great. If not, pick up one or two, and that may help you. And so he doesn't want to be recognized, but let's thank him for giving those away to us tonight. And then I want to thank Nick Parker, because I had this last-minute idea, and you've got a book. I'll be talking about those later, but Nick worked really hard to put those together and get them to a printer today, and literally picked them up about 20 minutes ago and delivered them. So let's thank Nick for always being Johnny on the spot to do things for us. Okay, now, I knew it was probably going to happen, and Charlie steps up there and hits it 8 feet away, which is about 2.7 yards. So I've made a deal with Charlie. I get a shot, and if I am within 2 yards, I beat him, and I don't have to give him my money. So this is 106 yards. If I get it within 104 to 108, I win. Anything longer than 104, shorter than 104, or longer than 108, Charlie wins. Fair enough? That's the rule. I'm going to get one shot. And I know. All right, one shot. Charlie, I'm trying hard to win. I do not want to give you my money, but I will. Oh, it's too far. Yep, it's too far. Charlie, congratulations. Can we give Charlie a big hand? Come on up. You got to come get it. You got to come get it in front of everybody. I want everybody to know, and I want you to know, this is not church money. Okay? Church money is hard to come by. This was Greg's money.
Who's got a picture of this?
No. Now it's Charlie's money. Congratulations. I'm glad you won. Kind of. I'm really not that glad, but whatever. It's a good shot. Okay, so sometimes here's what happens. So I've got a guy, Robert McMillan. He actually is out of the Shady Grove Golf Club. He is a golf pro. He's got PGA Tour. Hayden Springer, who played last week and didn't do too good. I think he was top 30 or so and only won like $55,000 playing last week. He played 2 weeks ago and he was top 10, and he only made like $300,000 that week. So, the guy's struggling on the PGA Tour. I feel bad for him. He coaches Tony Romo, who's a pretty good player. And then he coaches guys like me and Brett and others who go because he's convenient and he's really, really good. And I asked him to come and be with us tonight because he's Scottish and he's got this great Scottish brogue and it's really great. And he's super excited. He's got a handout for you and all that stuff. And at Let me look this up. At 4:45, I got a text that said, Greg, I am sitting at the ER. And at this point, I'm not mobile. I'm so sorry I can't even function. I was looking forward to this, but I'm in so much pain trying to figure out what's going on. I'm getting an MRI. So Robert can't be with us tonight, and we call an audible, and that's just the way it goes. But the reason why I wanted Robert to be here was not so much so that you could meet Robert, though he's a great guy, a compelling guy, but was a concept that I wanted to talk with you guys about tonight as a follow-up to last month. Last month we talked about our habits and our experiences and our backgrounds and all those things that make us into who we are today, and the fact that we aspire to be something else or someone else 10 years from now or 20 or 30. So we were ourselves at the age of 10, but we're very different than we were as a 10-year-old now, at least most of us. And 10 years from now, we will be very different too. And there is a trajectory of life that we can be on that leads us closer to God and closer to holiness, or there's a trajectory that we have sadly seen in the lives of a lot of men that lead them away from God and toward destruction. And we know a lot of men who have gone down a path that has caused their marriages to fall apart, their families to be in disarray and dysfunction, their jobs to struggle all the time, their finances are a wreck, and their life is a wreck because they weren't intentional about how to live life. And so we talked last month about who we are and how we got here and some things we can do to change the future trajectory. And so we continue that theme tonight, and I wish that my golf coach were here. Because there's a lot to be said about having a coach. Now, he's not here, but this is the kind of coaching that we might have heard had he been here tonight. Andrew, play this.
All right, Job. Great, Greg. Great job with the takeaway here. I love where the club's going. Hands are going in, club is going up your right forearm. You'll see the same thing with Fleetwood here, just using him as an example. Good guys get a great move at it. So I think you're off to a good start right there. I think that's very similar. No issues at that point. We're looking good at that point. Now, as we get up, now you're moving away from that line, right? Now that's trouble. That's one, and you're letting go of the club with that right hand. We've got to do a better job of holding on there. Now, I want you to look at the position of his right arm compared to yours, right? Well, let's get an angle, a number on it. At the same space and time, his hands are just slightly above his shoulder. Let's get your hands to the same place. So I can't quite stop him at the same place, but I think that there is pretty close. So you would agree that you're at the same part of your golf swing as he is, right? And watch where this right arm comes in, internal, and his drops down. Look at the difference in the arm right there, right? So we just got to be careful with that right arm. You know, I like this. This is a little bit too much forward. It's called internal, not external. So that's a little bit to do with that right hand coming off the club, but we can fix that. That's easy, right? The killer is this lower body of yours. That's the killer. It's just so many good players stay on that just a long time, and you get up. There it goes. You get off it just as you start to get to the top. Now you're in trouble. Now I feel like you're in your own way. Look at the difference of the body angle. Look at the difference in the body angle. It's massive. Greg, and I think you'll be a better player once we fix that. You've got to push that left hip backwards, and we've got to get you in this look. You can do it. You're in good shape. It's not like you can't do that. You can, but that's where you are. Once you get that down to there, we'll work on this hard. I think we'll do, now that I've seen this, I think we'll do, let's do an hour working on this, working on stop your lower body going forward, getting your right hand on the club, and getting into that angle that we see over here in the right here with his body, right, compared to yours. And then we'll get on the golf course after that. I think more important right now we fix that, because I can see how bad that looks there compared to him. Again, you can still play golf from there, but I want you to play better golf. So,
All right, so here's the point. I'm a pretty good player. Because I practice a lot and I blah, 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 right? But the problem is that I can't see the things that he can see. I can even watch myself swing, but I can't see nor know that what I'm doing isn't optimal for life. I have to have someone else who's watching what's going on and to whom I've given permission to speak truth into my life, particularly in areas where I need to improve. So what I know is that from that day on, I've been working on trying to get this to stay not here, but to stay here, right? But working really hard to get this so that my spine is there and my hips are staying back. Now, I didn't even read that shot. I'm sure it was a beauty. But whether it was or not, this isn't about how I play golf. This is about me listening to a coach and working very hard to do what the coach tells me to do in life, right? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm wanting to get better at this game. And for me to get better, I've got to go to a coach who can identify some things that I can't see about me and start implementing some things so that I can get better at this game. Now, all of you would agree with me, or at least I hope you would agree. I know you would. That the game of life is infinitely more important than the game of golf. And if I'm going to work, I pay money to this guy to point out some areas in my life where in my golf game, where I am weak. Why wouldn't I have a man or two or three that I give permission to speak truth into my life in order that I might be better at life? How many of you played any sport growing up? Raise your hand if you played any sport or game, anything, right? Played anything. Okay. Now, raise your hand again if in that sport, game, or whatever, if you had a coach. Almost all of you. And you had a coach. You know why? Because you didn't know what you were doing. And you needed a coach to teach you how to do what you wanted to do. Now, the reason why I decided to hire a golf coach is because I realized that Scotty Scheffler is the greatest golfer in the world and has a golf coach. Now, if the greatest golfer in the world today has a golf coach, maybe coaches are important. It's really not a new concept. It's not a new concept. In fact, it is one of the most biblical concepts that you will find, particularly for a man. Now, in this game, I have a golf bag. It carries all my stuff, right? All my clubs are up here, right? Down here, I have golf balls because you play golf with golf balls. And in here, I have tees and chapstick and that kind of thing. And here, I have ball markers. Over here, I have a sweater. I've got rain pants in case it rains. I've got static guard because sometimes these sticks to my shirt and I don't like that. I've got Nerve Vive because I got a pinched nerve in my back and I rub that on. I've got sunscreen lotion. I've got a pullover in case it rains. Over here I've got warm gloves. I've got a toboggan in case it's cold. I've got rain gloves. I've got another toboggan in case that toboggan gets wet. I've got more golf gloves than you could imagine because if these golf gloves get wet, I got to have dry golf gloves, so I've got more rain gloves. I've got a cover for my golf bag. And back here, I've got more cold weather gloves, and then these, which are really convenient if it's super cold. Right? Can't play with these, but you can put them on to keep your hands warm because I also have, of course, oh, this is awesome. I've got hand warmers. I have an extra propane tank for my heater just in case that goes out. This is like Felix's bag of tricks. Remember Felix the cat? And I do have a rangefinder that does have one of those eye finder things on it because I tend to lose this a lot and want to know who's stolen my rangefinder. Now, I have all that in this bag because this is my winter bag and you need this stuff for winter. In the summer, I have a really simple bag. I don't need all this stuff. Okay? But in the golf bag of life, I think all men need three things, okay? And just because I'm clever, I made it an acronym for BAG. Number one, I think we need balance. I think you and I need balance. Most men I know, including myself, are really good at some parts of life and really weak at other parts of life. And so they're great at their job and everybody loves them and they're fantastic and they're advancing and they're making money and everything is great at their job. But their family's falling apart because they're working all the time. Or they're a fantastic husband and dad and they're going to all this stuff and they're giving their kids every opportunity you can imagine, but their work suffers because they're spending so much time with family. Or they're really great at church stuff. I mean, they're here every Sunday. If you see them live, they would impress you on Sunday. But you go home and they act like a completely different person Monday through Saturday. And most men I know struggle with the balance of life and allowing God to influence every area of life. Most men have a hard time finding good balance. Second, I think most men have a hard time with accountability. Balance and accountability are really good. See, I could get up here and I could hit a driver down the fairway all day long. It's the strength of my game. I can hit a straight driver all day. Problem is, if I can't hit an iron on the green, I gotta have a really good short game and be a really good putter. The best players in the world are really good at driving and they're good hitting the ball in the fairway on the greens and they're really good chipping and they're great putters. Balance. But more than that is accountability. See, a lot of guys don't get better at golf. They don't go and get any coaching. They just go and kind of hack it around and then wonder why they're not any better. When you go to coaching and the guy says, hey, you've got to really work on this because what you're doing is you're doing that. He calls it extension. The real golf term is you're humping the ball. I'm not making that up. That's really what it's called. When you get here and you do that, it's called hump it. He's like, I humped that one. The ball goes dead left when you do that. Any golfers here, you can validate that I didn't just make that up? Nobody? Okay. Yeah, great. Bunch is raising his hand. Right? So I've got him. He's already told me that I need to work on this, right? So if I go back and I don't at least try to do that, he's going to go, why are we wasting our time here? I've made myself accountable to him by saying, I know I have a problem, him saying, here's how to fix it, and then me going back to say, okay, I've been working on fixing it. That's called accountability. Accountability is when you're willing to say to another man, look, here's my issue. I've got a big problem. And we don't want to do that because we don't like to be embarrassed. We don't like to be humiliated. We have too much pride and ego to say, man, I have this issue. And most of us struggle because we have an issue that happens in the darkness and the light of Jesus Christ can't shine on it because we've never made ourselves accountable to anybody. And it will wreck a man if he doesn't have accountability. The third crucial area for men is spiritual growth. Spiritual growth just doesn't happen accidentally. It happens intentionally. When you and I allow ourselves to open up to the Holy Spirit to do a work in our life. We do that a lot of different ways. I've talked about it on the 3-minute devotionals. You do that through the spiritual disciplines. You do that by getting into God's Word. You do that by fasting and observing the Sabbath and being generous and all these things. But none of those things make you more spiritual. All those things do is open your heart to say, Jesus, I give you permission to do a work on me. And the more He works on us, the more we grow closer to Him. The more we are with Him, the more we become like Him. And the more we can become like Him, the more we can start doing some things like He did it. We can start reacting like Jesus reacted. And as your pastor, I desperately want you to react like Jesus reacts, not like Greg reacts. One of the things that Keith and I made one of the things that we made a commitment to each other is that we were going to stand up here and be as honest as we could about who we are and where we were. We were never going to say, look at us, this is the church that Keith and Greg built, ever. This is not ever about Keith and Greg, ever, ever, ever. This is Christ Church, and it's always about Him, always, 100%. Because of that, we want you to grow in your passion of Christ and the passion for Christ. Balance, accountability, growth. That's the next step from what we talked about last week. Now, here's the thing. You can't do that on your own. I just don't think you can do it. I just don't think you can do it. If you show me someone who did, somebody that's stranded on a desert island, fine. But I don't think in our culture that we could do that on our own. So, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. What you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Now, that's a concept here at Christ Church that we're going to be implementing as much as we can to find some men who have been taught by Jesus, who have witnessed and experienced the grace of God. That's verse 1, by the way. Who experienced the grace of God and been taught by the Holy Scripture, who are willing to teach other men. We call them coaches. Oh, you can call them mentors or disciplers or whatever. I don't really know what a mentor is. I know what a coach is. I've had some of those, had some good ones. Here's some other things the Scripture says about this. And I just picked a few, by the way. I didn't pick them all. Here's Proverbs 13:20. Whoever walks with, that should say, with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. I suspect, though I don't know all of you well. I suspect that you spend a lot of time in your life with fools. And you need to offset that by spending some time with the wise. Hebrews 13:7. Remember your leaders, those who spoke the word of God. Consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate their faith. See what he's saying? He's saying, find some spiritual leaders and then do what they do. If you don't know what they do, why don't you sit down with them and ask them what they do? Or at least give them permission to tell you what they do. Give them permission to coach. Paul said it in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. You imitate me just as I imitate Christ. Right? The goal was not for them to be like Paul. The goal was for them to be like Christ. And we have some men in our church who are really, look, they're too humble that they would die if I started pointing them out. But we have some men here in our church who are really Christ-like men. They are Christ-like men. When you're around them, you can feel the presence of Christ in their life. And what I want to do is be around them as much as I can, because the more I'm around them, the more I just soak it in. I learn about them. And there's a serendipitous factor, because many of them are slightly older than me, and I'm able to watch how they move through different seasons of life. I'm able to see how they react and talk and observe when one of their parents passes away. Because I'm going to go through that in the next few years. I'm able to see how they react when something happens to a child or a grandchild that's harsh and traumatic. I'm able to see how they do that. I'm able to observe how they're living through life through a stage that I know I'm entering into. Does that make sense? It's coaching. So here's what we've done. Here's what we've done. I've asked, 15 or so guys, maybe a couple more, maybe 20. I've asked some guys to consider, I haven't even asked them to say yes yet, but consider being coaches. And some of you are considering being coaches, and you know who you are. And if you're considering, in a minute I'm going to ask you to stand up, and here's why. Because I want the rest of us to just look around and say, oh, okay, yeah, those look like fairly normal guys. Right? What you don't want to do is you don't want to get teamed up with somebody that looks, never mind, I'm stopping right there. It's not about outward appearance, but you know what I mean. I shouldn't have said that. Hey, if you've agreed to be a coach or are considering being a coach, would you stand up just so we can see the kind of guys? Go ahead. You guys stand up. You know who you are. Go ahead. All right. These are some guys who are men that have been vetted, if it were. They're the kind of men that I would want to sit down with to say, hey, tell me about this, tell me about that. Thank you, guys. Thank you for prayerfully considering being a coach. All right? Now, I believe that every single one of us should sit down with another man or another couple of guys maybe. I think you need a coach. Okay? But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to let you just sign up for a coach today, because I could talk about this and then you could sign up, but the fact is that we're going to call you and you're going to forget how important it is. And you're going to say, oh yeah, I'm not available next week and not available the week after that. I'm really busy and maybe after spring break. And you're just not going to do it. You're not going to follow through. It's human nature. We know this about you already. So what we're going to do is make you earn it. You say, well, that's not fair. Yeah, it's fair. Guess what? You want to play high school football, you had to go through 2-a-days. If you weren't willing to go through 2-a-days, you couldn't be on the team. It's just it's just a thing, right? It's just a thing. So, but the way that we're going to ask you to earn it is going to be really healthy for you. Because remember what we talked about last week? Last month we got more positive feedback about Man Church than any other month. So what we did is we took all those things that we talked about and we put them in this. And what we've created here is a 30-day introspection for you, about you. So that every day you could sit down with this, and in the next 30 days, you could just spend 2 or 3 minutes thinking about yourself and writing down little short answers. And the questions aren't hard. And by the way, nobody's judging your answers. This is about you, not about anybody else. So on day 2, the question is, what habits make up your everyday life? Write down the activities of a typical workday. Nothing hard about that, right? Nothing hard about any of this. Literally, there's nothing here that you're going to have to go on ChatGPT and figure out how to answer, how to respond. All right? Every bit of this is just about you. Now, here's what we've done with this. With this, we've put together a coach's guide so that every single day in this has a corresponding coach's tip for what they might say to you about your answer. And so what we're going to do is just ask you to do this for 30 days. And then next month, we're going to come back to Man Church. And I don't know, 20, 30, 40 of you will bring back your book and say, yeah, I'm ready for a coach. And we'll match you up with somebody. And all he's going to do is sit you down with your own answers and say, tell me about a typical work week and what does that look like? And you're going to go through and just describe that to him. And he's going to say, okay, based on what you've just said, maybe you should add some prayer in there. Maybe you should take 5 minutes during your lunch break. Here's what I've done that I found worked for me. Little life tips to make us better at life. If you don't care, don't do it. But I know you do or you wouldn't be here. I know you do or you wouldn't be here. What we're doing is intentionally taking the men in our church, that's you, to the next level of their spiritual walk with God. That's all we're doing. And we're trying to put some steps together. And you'll notice, not a plan or a program. We're not giving you the answers. We're asking you to think about you. It's really not any different than me going into Robert and saying, Robert, I'm having the hardest time hitting a shot 120 yards. I can hit one 106, and I can hit one 130, but 120? Watch me hit this 120 on the dot. Did you even read it? When we sit down, I'm going to say, Robert, I can't hit a 120-yard shot. Oh, that's 120. That just saved me about $100. I don't have to go to him. No, it wasn't. Look, it's 110 yards. I'm telling you, I can hit this club 110, or I can hit it 130, but if I'm 120, I don't have a club to hit. I just don't know what to do. When I go to Robert, I'm going to say, look, I know we did all this stuff about the hip, so I'm not humping it, but I need to learn how to hit it 120. And I'm going to go to him and say, look, here, let me tell you something about me. Now you fix me. And all we're trying to do is help you to say, God, here's some issues that I'm having, and I need some wise counsel on how to fix it. That's life well lived. So here's what we're going to do. Andrew, if you will, put those questions up. We're going to ask you just to get with the guys that are around you, or if you came with somebody tonight, get with them, or if this kind of thing makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to talk. If you're a group leader, if you're a group leader, we give everybody in group permission to say, I don't want to answer this. All right? Everybody repeat after me. I don't want to answer that. Okay, great. About 3 of you did. Okay. Balance, accountability, growth. Of the 3, which one is a strength of yours and why? Of the 3, which is a weakness of yours and why? And then go to the last one and answer, how would a spiritual coach help you where you're weak? And then if you have time, go to the third one. What did you hear God say to you tonight? All right, we'll leave these up. You guys discuss. If you need to go, go. When you get through, there are caps back there. And we're going to throw them in the dumpster if you don't pick them up on the way out. If you didn't pick one up already, we are throwing them away tonight. There's 2 extra large white shirts that say Man Church on them. And there's a couple of medium T-shirts if you're little and can wear those. If not, we're throwing them away. Actually, we'll take them down to the thing, but they're going away from here. They've been in, okay. Good luck. Talk amongst yourselves.